Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start, call to order the Improvement and Services Committee meeting. Do roll call. We've got Alder Campbell, Alder Weary, and myself, Alder Eck, and Alder Stoyer is excused absence. Okay, so I'm looking for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So that passes, and looking for approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So we're moving to E, regular business. Number 1, consideration with possible action on request by Frank and Doris Arcuri, 4083 Champeau Road, to extend the deferral on water main assessments against parcel 22-SC490-2 until the property is sold or developed. Director?
Okay, included in the packet, we provided you with a synopsis and a graphic showing where this property is. This is out in the University Heights Business Park. Back in 2004, when the property, or when the water main was originally installed, there was a request that was granted by Common Council to have the certain water main and some sanitary sewer extension assessments deferred against parcels 22 SC490 and 22 SC490-2. So if you look at the graphic that's been included, if you look north from 22 SC490, you will see 22-SC490-4 and 22 SC490-3. Those two parcels will come into effect shortly. The original assessments were deferred until the parcel was sold, or 5 years, whichever occurred first. At that time, the assessment becomes, at such time that the assessment becomes due, the amount shall be calculated based on the assessment rate in effect at the time. That's normal language for a deferred assessment. In 2008 and 2013, respectively, additional requests were entertained to, again, defer for 5 years or until the property was sold or developed, which extended the deferrals ultimately out to October of 2019. In 2020, there was an action taken to subdivide what are now parcels 490, 490-4, and 490-3. That was all one parcel at the time. And somebody wanted to buy what ultimately became 490-3, which would have triggered all the assessments. They came in, requested to have the assessments split amongst the 3 parcels, pay the assessments on 490-3, and further defer the assessments on 490-4 and the parent parcel 490. At that time, the property owners should have requested a similar deferral against 490-2 because there's some common ownership out here. The property owners, all being family, thought 490-2 was part of that decision. During some routine investigation into files, checking some backlog, that kind of thing, it was determined that, that assessment was never deferred again. So we sent a letter to the property owner indicating that according to our records, the assessments become due. They wrote back and said, we would like to request a deferral. Staff has no problem with this. It's very procedural. It really should have been taken care of at such time that the other one was taken care of, so staff recommends approval.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion approved by Alder Weary and seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is approved. So move on to,
Units, when we first got into council, the storage units.
out there.
Allowed here.
Okay.
The same people.
All right, so number 2, consideration with possible action on request by Tommy Everman, owner of Gather on Broadway, for permission to reserve 2 parking spaces in front of 139 North Broadway for pickup and drop-off of guests during scheduled events on Friday and Saturday nights throughout the year. Director?
Actually, I'm going to defer this to Chris Brillock. Chris is the manager of the parking division. We do know that there's, included in the packet, we've included a copy of the email that Chris received from the owner requesting that on a periodic basis, not every weekend, it would be upon request. But parking is largely unregulated. It's time limited, but the time limits are not enforced on weekend nights.
Right.
So somebody can, on weekend nights, the parking on Broadway is unregulated. What the property owner is requesting is the ability to reserve some stalls. Now, there may be some ways to do that. Have we talked about bag fees or any of that kind of thing?
No, because there's really nothing to put a bag on. Chef Fusion down the street, right at the corner of Dousman and Broadway, was granted a similar, almost identical request some years ago
Okay.
for their valet type parking. So they put out a sandwich board type sign for 40 feet that says reserved valet parking for Chef Fusion. This is basically a similar thing, you know, guest pickup and drop off to assure that that curb space is open for Gather on Broadway, which is a large gathering space, of course. So you're, you know, a lot of people coming and going of different walking aptitudes. You know, let's say you got grab and grandpa off close, it's better to walk, or someone in high heels, whatever. I don't, you know, it's a courtesy and convenience thing. And we have no problem with it from the parking division perspective. It's largely open, but allowing this would make sure to, you know, make sure that they have that space for that convenience purpose.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? And is anybody here to speak on it? Okay, I just want to make sure.
I mean,
You have a question?
Maybe you can help me, you're an expert. With the whole food delivery service stuff going on now, I mean, are more and more people gonna ask for this if they start doing like a Uber thing or Uber Eats or something like that? I mean, is this gonna open up a whole can of worms to go?
It's possible, and that's something that we're going to touch on very, very briefly, but not entirely in depth later on in the agenda when we talk about the downtown parking stuff.
And this is a gathering space. It's not a place where you go to pick up food. It's, you know, like for
Like a wedding banquet.
Wedding banquet hall. A spin on that. Sorry, I didn't look at it.
And this is specifically for pickup, drop-off.
Of people.
Okay, so, do you have any questions?
No, seems fair to me.
And it would be at their expense, right?
Correct, yeah.
Whatever they would do
and
to
I
market.
spoke with Tommy numerous times, and he said, we already have sandwich boards that would fit that bill to, they're stable, we can put the message on it. But they're prepared to do it, they just need the approval.
Okay. Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And moving on to number 3, consideration with possible action on request by Alder Grant to require staff to send a letter to residents who will have financial contribution to projects included in the city's capital improvement program. Director.
Most projects in the DPW capital improvement program that will result in special assessments are required to hold a public hearing before the project is approved and assessments levied. Prior to the public hearing, a public information meeting is held, and all properties affected are notified of both the PIM and the public hearing by certified letter. Sidewalk installation and repair projects do not carry the same public notification period, as the cost to install and repair sidewalk is actually the responsibility of the property owner. That's one of the biggest misunderstood things in DPW, is DPW doesn't, we don't just bill the property owner. It's the property owner's responsibility to make all corrections. And if they fail to do so within the 30 days granted under the resolution, then we have the right to come in and do that at the expense and bill them back. But they're responsible for it up front, okay? Most people just elect to let the time period expire and let the city do it because we get a better rate on cost per square foot. So But because it's a special charge for service, not a special assessment, the special assessment notification periods are not the same. For sidewalks, the Common Council orders the improvements by resolution, and property owners are notified after the resolution has been passed, again by certified letter. Specific to this North Huron Road project, a request for sidewalk study was brought forward to the Improvement Service Committee in September 9th of 2020. Staff completed the sidewalk study and brought the item back to committee on February 24th of 2021. All normal notification procedures for this item were followed. Committee recommended the installation of sidewalk and the assessing of all special charges at that meeting, and their action was approved by Common Council on March 2 of 2021. As the action was already approved by the council, there was no need for us to hold any additional public information meetings or any public hearings prior to the project starting. We followed the simple resolution process like all other sidewalks. And the resolution was passed by Common Council April 18th of 2023. Property owners were notified after the fact, like every other sidewalk in the city. There were a handful of people out there who did not know that the sidewalk study was going on. They asked why we didn't notify. That's not part of our process. So what Alder Grant is asking for is anytime that we're going to be sending a bill to somebody on a public project, that we should be holding a public meeting or sending a letter. What I'm going to tell you is there are a lot of projects that we do, and for instance, if you want us to do this on sidewalks, this year's sidewalk resolution went out to over 400 residents. To notify them ahead of time that your sidewalk is up for repair, that's going to place a huge burden on staff.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Thank you. Steve, Director, have you spoken with Alder Grant about this? I mean,
No, I haven't.
okay. I didn't know if that explanation was good enough, to explain.
Well, and I don't know that there's necessarily a timeliness on this. Again, this communication came largely in response to a single project. Subsequent to, and I think you may remember us having this discussion when we were talking about this. It's over almost a mile of sidewalk in length, and there were only 3 property owners that had direct access to the sidewalk, so there were only 3 orders out of everybody who were being charged, okay? One of them was a condo association, and one of them was a vacant piece of property. Subsequent to this action, I got notified by both of them and by the alder. We went back, reviewed the platting process, and during the subdivision platting process, we found that there was language in there that relieved both the condo and the vacant parcel from the obligation of sidewalk on the Huron Road side. So we subsequently notified both of those property owners that you no longer have a financial obligation. The property owners are satisfied. A lot of the driving force behind this is now removed. I don't know how much more beyond this explanation. I've not spoken to Alder Grant since the agenda was published. So I don't know that there's necessarily a timeliness aspect to action on this. If you wish to hold it for 2 weeks and have Alder Grant have an opportunity to weigh in on it, I think that would be entirely appropriate.
The condo one is a tuning problem.
It does seem vague as far as, like, it's in the action of what it is specifically speaking of, so I wasn't sure till, I got your description and I read it, and it does sound like it's specifically, about one specific area with the sidewalks and stuff, but anybody you want to ask a question?
I don't know if you can say it, is that condo one? I'm pretty sure that's a tuning property. I mean, it doesn't matter, it's a developer. I mean, I thought it was kind of funny, I think this was started by the past alder. that put the request in for that way before we were in
Correct.
office here. I think, just clarifying it all, and,
For the sidewalks.
right, and I just found it funny where it's not developed and we needed a sidewalk there, all related to the study, where there was a trail, like someone was walking there. I've been there, not much of a trail, but either way, I thought of that, people that had to pay for that. So now, it went through the process, so two of the larger, it's a city improvement more than they're gonna get stuck with it. They'll still have to maintain it somewhere down the road, no? Just questions, that's all.
Nope.
So it'll be developed someday, most likely.
The vacant property?
The properties that are in question here, the three property owners.
One of the three is a Quick Trip, one's a vacant parcel, and one is a developed condominium.
Okay.
So there's only one vacant parcel. And yes, at some point in time, that would be developed, but that development would not be allowed to have access out to Huron. They would only be allowed to have access back onto
Thing,
Barronwood.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Mostly because that's a two-way split road there, right?
That has nothing to do with it.
Well, I mean, in the design a long time ago, whenever that was developed. Just trying to be up to speed on it all, that's all. I
Yep.
don't oppose it or anything, it's, at the time, I'm like, I didn't really see the dire necessity of it all.
Well, I can verify, I live out there. I see pedestrians walking in the grass all the time, and there was a well-worn, what we refer to as a cow path. It was definitely necessary.
Guess that's why it's getting done.
Make a motion to receive and place, to hold until our next meeting. You know, since none of us have talked with Alder Grant, give her the opportunity, maybe she'll see this between now and council next week and just want to file it next week. I'll even bring it up to her, say, hey, we handled this, do you want to put it back on our committee or not? Unless anybody has heard from her regarding this.
No, she didn't reach out to me.
Yeah.
So, motion on the floor. A second, I'm looking for a second, to hold it until our next,
Chris had the wording on it, so
Just to hold it till the next meeting.
I'll second it.
okay. So we have a motion by Weary, a second by Alder Campbell, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes, so we move on to number 4. Consideration with possible action on request by Alder Grant for the City of Green Bay to complete snow and ice management along North Huron Road for parcel 21-7923.
Somewhat related to the previous item, we've included a graphic in here that shows pretty much the intersection of Humboldt Road and North Huron. So parcels 21-8365 and 21-7924-1 are the two parcels that no longer have the financial obligation. The northerly of the two, 8365 is the condo, 7924-1 is the vacant parcel. The original request was for the city to provide snow and ice maintenance on all three of these between Watercrest and Humboldt Road. As it is right now, the city has, we've subsequently determined that the city has maintenance responsibility on 8365 and 7924-1, so the request really is only for 21-7923. The city currently plows the snow on the north or on the west side of this road all the way up to the 54-57 interchange. With the new sidewalk being on the east side and most of the sidewalk being city responsibility, we'll simply cross Huron Road and we'll plow to the south. Now we'll come down as far as Watercrest. We have to plow the first two properties. Either we pick the blade up and we drive over the accumulated snow that's on the sidewalk alongside the Quick Trip property, or we're already there. Keep the blade on the ground and we'll plow. So the request is just for the city to keep the blade on the ground because we're driving over it anyway and have us maintain it. I've had a conversation with Chris, we're perfectly fine. But in order for us to do this, it does require action.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
motion to approve the request.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. And I would like to reconsider the agenda. I didn't really think of it, I'm sorry. Can we move 21 up to the next item? So, because I realized it's way at the end and that we do have somebody here to speak on it.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to reconsider the agenda.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, so we're going to move to 21. And it's consideration with possible action on a request to extend Isbell Street south of Mason Street to the South Mason Street frontage road in order to alleviate traffic issues along the South Mason Street frontage road and to enter into agreements with adjacent property owners pursuant to this opening. And we do have somebody here to speak on it, so
Motion open floor.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that approves. The floor is open.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah, the attachments aren't working.
See if here are the images you wanted to see before. So Garrett Rader, 300 North Van Buren Street, thank you again for being able to be here. The request tonight in front of you, part of a broader plan. We started talking about it a little bit at the Parks Committee meeting on how the request in front of you tonight for Isbell really ties into a broader plan between Hinkle and Packerland along this Mason Street corridor. In short, to improve the access of the road network in the area, allow for new residential development, and improve the value of this commercial corridor, primarily on the south side of Mason Street, frontage road between Packerland and Hinkle, for the most part. So the heart of the plan is on the far right there, where you're extending Hinkle Street south, as Dan referenced last time at Parks Committee, kind of on the north side of the park, onto the existing Hobart Drive. That will allow the creation of residential development in that area and eventually connect up to Mason Street when the time is right. That may not be right away, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. There are other concurrent city actions being requested as part of this also. The specific action tonight is about Isbell Street. It's a walking intersection, we'll talk about that, but then to possibly approve other adjacent requests as part of that, and all of this will help kind of accomplish those three items that I've referenced earlier. So, start with a brief history background of the area. Around 1980, Mason Street was widened to 4 lanes. At that time, the frontage roads were built. The theory of frontage roads is to reduce, or in many cases, eliminate direct access onto the main thoroughfare, which here is Mason Street. Talking to some retired DOT folks, what they even said was, we knew these were a mistake the day the concrete was poured. Because while in practice the theory is wonderful, you prevent access points, you prevent conflict points. What it can do in this case is overprotect West Mason and create horrible intersections at especially Packerland and also Hinkle. That's been happening for decades now. I would also argue that since access is poor in the area, you've seen the poor quality of largely the commercial developments on the south side of that south frontage road. When people cannot easily access the properties, quality, in most cases for that area, retailers will not locate there. So the properties never really improve. I'd argue that we can make this better. And I want to stress that better does not mean perfect, but it means a lot better than what is there right now. What Brown County is doing is what you see on the left side of this image. And they started their work. I've been at my work for about 6 years on this whole project. Brown County started its work in the last few years to stop what has been a horrible situation here with accidents and design problems there. What they're doing largely, cutting off your direct access to the frontage roads, pretty much eliminating the left turns in about every scenario. They are creating the new access points to replace those movements. One of the biggest ones is we'll talk about here west of Packerland, a left in, right out, which provides access to the south frontage road and to those businesses west of Packerland. They then are proposing a roundabout at Trojan Drive, which they are aiming to help address access to these businesses on the south frontage road. That may be physically solving a problem that closing this meeting creates. I would argue does not practically solve it. Because for those of us that ever frequent a business, you'd like to be able to get in, get out as easily as you can. The solution for Brown County largely is to make this loop and come around, or failing that, to keep driving east and turn back around and come back. We all know that most people are not going to do that. And I think the problem shows right now in how the quality of some of those establishments are not where I think they could be. Isbell is actually a nice solution to that. And what it does is allow Hinkle to be fixed and not allow this to have to be a fallback to the fix at Packerland. But it actually solves what I think is the domino effect of work when you look at either intersection and where access needs to be maintained to those businesses and also to the neighborhoods behind it. So we'll come in front of you, there'll be a couple zoom-ins later. We'll zoom in at Isbell. So the proposal in front of you today is to open this here, slightly shift the frontage road to accommodate that, add a left turn lane, and again, open this access point. So why would this work here? Well, first and foremost, if you need this again, let me know. I'll pop it up for you.
Before you, just because,
Yep.
I mean, I live over there, so I know exactly what you're referring to, but Alder Campbell was kind of asking me questions, which
I know
is
where-
why we had a site. Okay,
Sure.
so you know where Sam's Club is? Okay, all
Yep.
right, just want to make
Sam's
sure.
Club substation, the old tenant, as always. Casino right here.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, and again, I can pop these back up, just let me know if you look. So why do I think that proposal would work? Number one, we did the traffic studies to prove it. The study was originally back in February of 2022. TADDY was the firm, Traffic Analysis and Design Incorporated. We looked at 3 intersections, 5 scenarios for different ways of opening both Hinkle, Hobart, and Isbell, but by different means. Scenario E is the one that I'd like to propose because it allows for the full access. Bear with me one moment. The modifications at Hinkle are proposing the tie to the park work you just saw. A right in, right out at Hobart Drive, which is a compromise because I was pushing for a left in there also. I wanted to compromise on that to a right in, right out. And then the access movement at Isbell. So the study looked at all 3 intersections under the 5 different scenarios and came up with the results that effectively say, yes, it can work with particular design instructions, signage, those sorts of things. I asked them to do a technical memorandum, as they called it, just to update earlier this year, to address one slight tweak at Isbell to instead of having one leg, have 2 legs that approaches it. In short, it can work because it has incredibly low traffic volumes, much like what the county is proposing west. So in short here, what Isbell can act like is a glorified driveway. Yes, it's a public street and will be treated as such, but it has such low traffic volumes that's really more like a driveway. Number 2, this intersection kind of acts very similar, almost identical to what the county is proposing west of Packerland. So packets of fun here for you guys. So you have 3 images there. Absolutely. But just show an example or a comparison of what Brown County is doing west of Packerland to access that frontage road, what I'm proposing, and then also a photo of that recently opened throat, as you call it, west of Packerland. And I'm not sure if anyone has had a chance to drive it or see it in action. But what you see there is you can kind of compare the top image and the bottom image of your packet side by side, just to see the similarity in design on those 2. With distance off Mason Street, throat, the signage, the left turn access point, they're very similar. And if you have not been out there, the image is here just to show that it opened recently to provide that access. Now, one thing that's interesting that we can do, I would argue that the design of this at Hinkle is actually even a little bit safer than what Brown County did because of a lack of driveways near this specific intersection that exists west of Packerland. And also the ability to use the signal, which this would dump out at, and adjust signal timing and some of the sequencing to actually make this intersection work pretty darn safe. So those are the first 2 reasons why I believe Isbell will work. The third reason is we actually have the support of WPS to do this project. So I approached Wisconsin Public Service, given the proximity of their substation earlier this year, and just said, hey, would you think about this? But timing actually ended up being pretty good, because at that time in particular, for those paying attention to national news, there were big stories about substation shenanigans being conducted by certain people with vandalizing and trespassing and doing other things there. What they said here was they had always loved the idea of having bollards in front of it to prevent ramming, and also to replace and reconstruct the landscape banners there to enhance security at that facility. So in exchange for work on that, they said they believe that they would be able to support this proposal. So a couple things here. What guarantees that the volumes remain low, that the Isabel fix works? What we're trying to do essentially is redistribute how vehicles access between West Mason and the frontage road. So what we're trying to do here, just a couple images I'll show you this way. Bear with me, when evolution gives me 3 hands, it's going to be so much help. On this side here, you're looking at, here's the Hinkle as installed that we just talked about at Parks Committee. What it shows here is that maybe not all of it is installed right away. It's going to depend on timing of roadway design and where it can connect and not connect right away. I'd like it to connect on the south so you can open up and access the residential there, of course. But it may mean that other parts wait until other pieces are in place of this broad puzzle. So at Isabel here, here's that access point at Isabel that I'm proposing. What you can hypothetically do is cut off access to certain parts of the frontage road and prevent the frontage road being a through raceway, truthfully. Preserve the access for Hobart Drive to be able to access Mason until this is ready, when this is redone. Now, one just idea on how that could be redone at Hinkle is, do you work on a connection sooner rather than later, where you can connect that with some intersection modifications. You can do a right in, right out at Hobart Drive, where your frontage roads remain for the near term, but you prevent the left-in movements, much like they're doing at Packer Lane. Knowing that future developments will all be farther south that create the throat access point, which is really desired. But again, none of this is all up for debate and options on what can work short-term, long-term. Again, the long-term plan is really this plan, which says, if you can do the proper commercial redevelopment and eliminate sections of the public frontage road in particular, not only do you get that tax base back, not only do you have better quality development there, but you have new driveways farther south than Mason that provide the queuing and the stacking that everybody wants. So, I can't stress enough, none of this is perfect. As many of you know, civil engineering is the background, traffic management is what I studied. I think I know a little bit what I'm talking about here, and I will say it's not perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we have right now. And although what's proposed is substandard, it's a better substandard than the substandard we have out there currently, which provides bottlenecks, F level of service, according to traffic studies, that we improve. So I would, ask the committee to not let perfect be the enemy of good, what I think can be very good. So a few final comments, some discussions that I've had over the years, and again, this has been 6 years of working on this. We can't find perfect, it's just not possible, but I think this is very good. The fear that we'd be recreating a broken Hinkle, or if we do a similar situation at Isabel at Hinkle, that it would produce the same bad impacts. And I disagree based on the low volumes there, that type of intersection can handle that kind of design where Hinkle cannot at much higher volumes. We've addressed the traffic study, the fear of backups along eastbound Mason when you approach Hinkle, the fear that the backups here could stretch into this intersection. The study suggests otherwise, and without having a left in there anymore, makes it a lot more safer if that occurs with lower movements and fewer movements to approach that. The WPS substation, of course, we've had those discussions. They are willing to talk with us. They're willing to approve it if we're working with them on bollards and landscaping. We'd have to adjust one stretch of power line where the street would cross. We should take them up on that while they're willing to do it. It's too important here. It can permanently fix the value of the properties on that side of the road. Finally, I know, how will this be funded? That's a discussion underway right now with economic development in regards to TIF district out here, increment generation, potential bonding, and developer contribution. So I argue today, the request today is really about design and access, not about funding, which we are working on and very aware of. So the request today, to be obliged to do, would be to approve an opening of Isabel to the South Frontage Road, and preferably with a date on there. I'm proposing December 31st of next year. I'd like to approve an agreement with WPS in particular, that in exchange for the upgrades to the exterior of their facility, that they would not object to this proposal in front of them. Tie any support here that may be needed to some of the other action items as we talked about in some of the other cross streets. And when this goes to council, it can be August 22nd instead of August 1st, as yours truly is out of town at a conference next week. I know I talked a lot. I don't see a lot of things to say, so I will I can answer questions or?
Yeah, before
Yep.
you sit down, does anybody have
Absolutely.
any questions?
Can you point out the substation there? I think I know where it is, but
Sure. Maybe I'll give you both options.
it's on the south side.
Isn't it, what is it called, Tenants that's right
It's
next
the
to it?
former tenant restaurant.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's right next to there.
Yep. So broader plan here, the substation is here at Isbell, just for context to everything else. And then this one here shows the substation right there and how that street would dump out and do it. The nice thing is, in proposing this action, that entire assemblage of properties outlined in red is available for redevelopment. Or I'd argue right now, it just never will be because when you can't access it, the quality development to drive the acquisition development did not occur.
So there's been a lot of businesses along that area there that have had pretty deep pockets for years and were able to keep them open when there was more business. And they haven't been open in years, so this is gonna improve some of that.
Regardless, again, I'll say this with the engineering background, I fully appreciate that there's no perfect here. You can't, you would never approve when I'm proposing at a greenfield development, you wouldn't, because there's not enough spacing that everybody would like, and I mean that. But the fact of your comment there, it shows in how those businesses have kind of flown in and out, and I've argued have been of poor quality because no one can easily get to them.
Yeah, and I mean, what I was saying was years ago, 20 years ago, when the markets were different. I know the owners of most of the properties there, and they had pretty deep pockets, so they were able to withstand it. I mean, that wasn't their only business in town. So it only allows, and they're bigger places, so, I mean, is that all gonna stay commercial along in there then?
It is all zone commercial, I think it's fully supported for commercial.
Sure.
Could that also be some, medical, or there are different, medical and retail called MedTail now, is kind of coming together? Could that be some options there? Maybe. But better quality than, I say this respectfully, because I've talked to a lot of those folks along that corridor, but the quality of some of the businesses that are there right now.
So then, I mean, as further down with newer developments, down by all the more chain restaurants, where it is fairly busy, this will pick up this area.
I really believe so. The only areas in that corridor right now where you see the quality, that's how the quality of that national retail, Class A retail, is on the north side of Mason. And don't forget, the north side of Mason between, Hinkle and Isbell used to have the same frontage road that the south side does. 30 years ago when Walmart was built, the frontage road A became private and B pushed north, so you have a slew of retail there. The south side, the only area you've seen what I call that quality retail are hugging the intersections of Hinkle and Packer Lane, because people can understand how to get in there at the easiest possible or the least bad and then exit out. But nobody wants to go midway on that frontage road when you can't easily get out to Mason.
Or get out, right?
Well, and especially with what the county's doing, it makes it even harder.
So, looking down the road, creating better business there, this pattern, traffic pattern will help that. I mean, it won't end up to be a burden then. I mean, you don't know, but
In my opinion, yes, it's, like I said again, it's substandard there now. Even the design modifications would be technically substandard, but far better than what's there now. And I think when you redistribute and properly move some of those access points along the corridor and you're not jamming into two intersections, everything operates more efficiently than it does right now.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
Elder Weary?
Yeah, Mr. Bader, appreciate you putting all that together. You had kind of rattled off three things that weren't a part of the official request. I think one was a completion date. Is that, do you remember?
If, a completion date by when an access would have to be open. And that date, we can discuss when that would
Okay.
have
Was
to
that-
be, but kind of so we've been at this for 6 years, so I think we're at the point where, do we want it or not? Do we want to open up areas? And if so, let's do it, pick a date.
I think you had said December 2024? was that-
December 31st of '24, right.
No, what were the other two? I didn't jot them down quick enough.
An agreement with Wisconsin Public Service. And my last one was, we've simply to have August 22nd be the council day.
Okay.
Yeah, putting it off.
Yeah, would there have to be other roadways directly tied to an approval? That was the other part. If for certain access configurations. That was also there, but kind of tied to the same thing with Isabel.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks.
Anybody else here to talk on this? Just thought I would put it out there. Okay. Motion?
Motion to close floor.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes. So I realized I didn't have you speak first, and I apologize.
No, that's quite all right.
But the attachment is not coming through
Yeah.
for us. It is coming up as an error, so you'll have to tell
There
us.
was no attachment.
No.
Oh, okay, well then that's why it's coming up as
Yeah,
an
it
error
does.
though.
It comes up
Weird,
with-
all right.
PDF.
Yeah,
It says
it says,
Adobe download.
There is a INS attachment PDF, but it just says PDF.
It says
Oh,
PDF. that's it.
that may have been it was the communication that we received
Oh.
from Alder Sawyer late Monday afternoon.
Yeah, it was sent in sooner than that, but there was a problem, but anyway. So, I'm putting it up to you. Do you have something?
There's a reason that that the developer's been at this for 6 years. That reason is because he has failed consistently to convince the Department of Public Works that what he is telling you is indeed true. We disagree respectfully that he will create a worse traffic condition. As a matter of fact, the traffic study that his consultant performed very clearly indicated that traffic performance at the Hinkle intersection will be worse than what it is today. What he failed to tell you is at the Isbell intersection, there is almost a 3-foot grade differential between Mason Street and the frontage road. The frontage road is almost 3 feet lower than Mason Street. We can't make that grade differential up in the short distance between the frontage road and Mason Street, and we don't want storage of cars on the frontage road. That is, regardless of what his opinion is, that will create the exact condition that exists today at Hinkle that we're trying to eliminate. So he has been told repeatedly that what he will need is between 100 and 200 feet of north-south storage queue south of the frontage road, or at least south of the stop bar on where Hinkle or Isbell would intersect Mason Street from the south. The reason that he can't provide that is because it would go into the substation of Wisconsin Public Service. Obviously, Public Service would love to have a direct access in front of their substation, but they don't want to give up part of their substation to create the north-south road frontage that's needed for storage queues, so we're not storing people on the frontage road. DPW does not support this, will not support it. There's been, through all the studies, matter of fact, he's been told repeatedly, he's offered to do the traffic studies, and we've told you, don't waste your money. And he's gone ahead and done the studies anyway, and now trying to use the study to justify something that we've already told him does not work, it doesn't meet our standards. So this is a project we've debated over the last several years, and he's been told repeatedly that he has failed to meet the test to convince both myself and the traffic engineer that this is a good project.
Anybody have any questions?
Motion to open the floor.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Thank you. Aye. Just wondering if you had any response to the, I mean, I don't have the answers to them yet, but wonder if you.
Traffic
would.
studies show the intersection at Hinkle improves from level source F to either D or E. It does improve. The grade design can be met up. It's the engineer that did the design that was in front of you. He's shown that. Number 2.
Can we see the traffic study?
If you want to see it.
I mean, yeah, I think that would be helpful.
All this in between. Two people stand on it. Take that.
Yeah. So scenarios talks about scenario E approval and just shows the map right there. This is just the technical update and talks about the slight difference.
And then on the grade differential, you mentioned that an engineer reviewed it and.
Yeah, there's about 3 to 5 feet difference between Mason Street and the frontage road, but like anything, it depends on when do you start angling up and when do you get there. So the grade can be met up. In fact, the line that WPS has buried there, it benefits from us raising that street at that point.
Thanks. you share that information with staff?
The original traffic study was reviewed and commented on by staff. This one, we literally just got back off the bat.
Okay.
It's just it ties off the existing discussion on that one.
Yeah.
So that obviously can't be shared.
That's the recent one? Okay, I don't know. It take a little time to go through it. I did
Mhm.
do a quick one.
It's great bedtime material.
Bedtime material,
It's
yeah.
great bedtime material.
Did you get a take a look at it?
I didn't.
Okay.
It's possible to get copies for the rest of the council, probably want to see the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great. To be able to see it, that'll take a look. This is the one he said he just had done. Okay. Any other questions?
The engineer you said who did the boards here is the one who,
Right, so there are two consultants here. So TADI, TADI that referenced the firm that the traffic engineer said that he liked and had used, so I did employ them to do the study. And again, we five scenarios, 3 intersections for different ways of how to make different approaches work. And in short, again, what I brought in there is the scenario results that say, yes, it can work if you do A, B, and C. And there are design modifications and signage modifications, of course, that they're proposing, but it can work.
I don't know if you have any questions.
Lots of consume, did a good job. He did a good job. I mean, what do we believe? I don't know.
Now, seeing as though we will be meeting again before the August 22nd meeting, our next meeting is like the 16th, I think, something like that. Would you be back in time for
Yeah, it
that?
is.
I don't know when
To
you're.
present again here on the 16th.
I'm just
Yeah, it is
throwing
the
options out
16th.
there, because if we, let's say we
Is that a
held
Wednesday
this.
again?
Yeah.
I should be able to. I can verify that, but it should.
I'm just throwing it out there if we're really not, if, you know, you're not going to be available for council next week. There's no point in bringing it there because people want to ask questions, so.
I guess the result, not knowing the logistics of what would need to go, tonight or how that'd be worded. So is it automatically have to go on the first, or is it like a hold of the taken action last time and then next time that goes on?
You know, the committee could either
We
forward
could
it to council, we
defer
can
it.
hold it here
Or
until the
hold it.
next meeting, to maybe answer questions or have staff give their opinion, or, since council won't be acting on it
Mhm.
for a couple of weeks.
I guess I'll defer to the committee, or I'll check. I don't think the 16th will be a problem, but I can check.
Any other questions?
I guess you have to have something to compare it to. And that would come from our staff, I guess. Or discussion.
I'm not sure about a comparison, but,
Well, then-
you don't have any questions for Mr. Bader?
No, he's done a good job answering, all right.
Okay, any other questions?
No, motion to close the floor. Thanks.
I can get copies.
Do you wanna- He made a motion to close the floor.
Oh, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that said, does anybody have a motion? What you said before. A
I did have
vote.
a question. yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Since this probably wouldn't go to council for a couple weeks, would time until our next meeting be enough to put together a response, or? 'Cause I mean, I'm hearing two different stories, One group of engineers is saying can't be done, one saying can be done,
I
could
didn't
be
say it
done.
couldn't be done.
Yeah. So it could be done.
What I've said is that in order for the intersection to function correctly as an intersection, we don't want to recreate what's happening at Hinkle, and that is you're storing the vehicles on the frontage road and then having them turn into each other and gain access to the intersection to decide where on Mason or north on Isbell they would be going. So in order to not create the Hinkle situation at Isbell, just simply moving the problem further to the west, a 100 to 200 foot north-south extension of Isabel south of the frontage road, or at least south of the Mason Street stop bar, would be necessary to provide sufficient queuing length for the vehicles to come off the frontage road, get oriented, and be able to engage the Isabel intersection.
Now, would it be the same though, because Hinkle has everything flowing through it, right? And then the other one, the proposition is it would be a dead end on one side, so there's nothing coming.
There's no
through
guarantee
there.
that there's going to be a dead end on that other end.
I know, but if there were, that would change
That's
the
a
math,
That is a huge, huge if at this point.
but it changes the math.
It may.
So it's possible. I'm just, you know,
It's possible.
I think we do want to encourage people who see a tough situation. You know, we solved it on the north side, and look what's happening over there, it boomed. And we have the same thing on the south side, and then we don't aggressively try and solve it. Instead of saying, hey, you're bad, you know, quit coming back with ideas, we
No,
should be encouraging.
what I can tell you is if my staff saw a potential here, we would be pursuing it. When we see a bad situation, sometimes you just have to call bad, bad.
But I think the applicant even said you could be going from bad to good, or horrible to bad. That's still better.
We also have to weigh whether the juice is worth the squeeze, and in this case, in our professional opinion, it is not.
And that's-
Trust, I've been looking
I know.
at this
Oh,
for
I know.
years.
I know. And I'm, yeah.
Well, and there's changes because of what the county is doing. And I will tell you, I don't like what the county is doing up at the top where people can't get into the gas station. I just think it's wrong the way it was handled, so that's my opinion on that. That whole thing is just a mess. And I live over there, so I run into this. That Hinkle thing, I hate it. Because I get stuck waiting through how many stoplights trying to get out of there when I go to Aurora Baycare. You're sitting over there, like you said, holding, but I see the potential in this, but, I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just going by what I've heard and been shown in the maps, which, by the way, Alder Stoyer is going to be so jealous because we got all these maps tonight.
Tons of it.
Yeah, I guess I'm holding off and getting a little more information would be good. And maybe getting copies of what you have would be helpful. So, anything else?
And again, even if you read and understood every single word that the prediction proposal is, you still have to have something to measure against it. You'd have to figure out both sides to be able to make a just decision on it. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
If we take a little more time.
you'd have to understand both sides to make an appropriate vote on it.
So, holding up.
I mean,
I'll make a motion, yeah, to hold this till our next meeting and have staff, if you could write up, your concerns as you, expressed tonight, and then to share those with the committee and the applicant. And then if the applicant could share any of your new things with staff as well.
Okay, so the motion is to hold number 21, consideration with possible action on request to extend Isabel south of Mason Street to South Mason Street frontage road in order to alleviate traffic issues along the South Mason Street frontage road and to enter into agreements with adjacent property owners pursuant to this opening. And I'm looking for a second.
second.
All right, all those in favor say
I do
aye.
have a comment on it if I could.
Comment, okay.
Thanks. And the reason is, we see creative solution, and I know there's a lot of history here of banging the head against the wall, but when I look at it and hear about it, it sounds doable, it sounds plausible. And not that I'm doubting you, but I would like to, as Alder Campbell said, I'd like to see them next to each other, and maybe it might not be your best recommendation, but maybe council will say this is a policy thing. You know what? Let's make it from horrible to slightly bad. But it's better, and it helps that whole south side. That's something we should look at with a lot more data and information. So put together what you can, and we'll sort through it in a couple weeks, and then council can have at it. But it's worth looking at, Thanks.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and that passes.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you for coming in. So we will move back to number 5, consideration with possible action on request by Green. Oh,
Any chance you could hear 19?
Oh.
It's really standard and, thank you, I'm sorry, but if,
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to we handle number 19 next.
Second.
Okay.
Unless you
Oh,
really want to stay for the entire meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't know which one you
We
were
don't
on.
wanna
so-
no,
deny
I'm
you.
sorry.
And you could still stay. Yeah.
And so all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All right, so we're going to move 19 up to next. So we take number 19, consideration with possible action to approve the assignment and assumption of license agreement from Destry Enterprises, Inc., FKA Zoll Stone Center Incorporated to MP 13 Green Bay LLC for use of Ashland Avenue rights of way. And Director, do you want to talk before opening the floor?
Well, and I think we could probably eliminate the need to open the floor.
Oh, okay.
I think
And why?
the individual who's here to speak on this may change his mind about speaking once he hears the director's information on this. This agreement has existed at least since 2003, and there's simply been a change of ownership with rights to who has the rights to that easement. Staff has enjoyed the easement as it has existed since its inception, so we wholeheartedly support the change in assignment.
So you're recommending
We're recommending
approval? Okay.
Yeah, I recommend approval as well. It's just a standard as part of the sale of the property to assign it to the buyer. And there's protections in there for the city, so I would recommend approval as well.
Motion to close the floor and approve
Second.
the request.
Okay, well, aren't we gonna, we need to take it at, I think those,
We just-
one at a time here.
Come on,
So-
Chair.
Well, keep up with us.
Hello. He just said 2 things, so motion to close the floor. I made a motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Campbell, seconded by Weary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now, second one.
Motion
this.
to approve.
Okay,
Second.
motion approved and seconded by Weary. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so you're
You don't have
good.
to go.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, number 6. Wait, no, I'm sorry, number 5. The consideration with possible action on request by Green Viper LLC to dedicate the water main on west side of Erie Road that is adjacent to the condominium development. Director.
Green Viper has 2 developments going on over in this general location on the near east, or on the far east side. The first of which is immediately to the west of Erie Road, so on the attached graphic, it shows as parcel numbers 21-8490 through 21-8524. That is condominium development. Anything on the private property side of that becomes private water main. However, there was a need to extend the public water main under Erie Road to get down from the point that the water main ended to a point where it could service into the condo. That has been completed. Green Bay Water Utility is satisfied with the construction, so the petitioner has requested to dedicate that line to the public. Staff recommends approval of that request.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I just have a question. Is this where the Woods Golf Course was? Just so I understand?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. Number 6, consideration of possible action on request by Department of Public Works to purchase the following replacement equipment. 1 2023 Landing Craft L Series dock and buoy service boat from Work Skiff Inc. off GSA contract number 47QSWA18D004E for the purchase price of $303,046.66, which includes delivery and warranty. 1, can we take these all at the one? It seems to be. 1 2023 International HV607 tandem axle dump truck chassis from Packer City International, off the Sourcewell contract number 0092-NVS for the cost of $122,467, which includes delivery, warranty, and driver training, and one 14-foot dump body and hydraulic controls, one 11-foot reversible poly plow, and one 10-foot poly patrol wing from Monroe Truck Equipment off the Sourcewell contract number 062222-AEB-1 for the cost of $153,508, which includes installation on city-owned chassis, warranty, delivery, and driver training. Director? Wow.
Very short answer to this is all three of these pieces of equipment are included in the capital replacement plan that we brought to you last year as part of our 2023 budget. They're also included in our 2023 bond request. Now that the bonding has been approved, staff went out. Normally, we would take this out to bid, as Alder Eck indicated when she was reading the items. The boat was purchased off of government service agreement contract, so the GSA contract that's been bid out on a state level for us. The tandem axle dump truck chassis is off of the Sourcewell cooperative buying contract, so that has been competitively bid out on a state level. And the dump body, the hydraulic controls, the poly plow, and the wing from Monroe is also off of a separate Sourcewell contract. So all of these have been competitively bid, and we do have the money in our equipment replacement fund to purchase all of this. This is all frontline equipment. Obviously, dump truck with the controls, dump body, plow, that's one of our snow fighting pieces of equipment. And the work skiff boat that replaces our barge for our sewer and bridge utility section to do the waterborne work that they do every year.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I thought it was to put in our city docks. Just
Excuse me?
barely. I thought that was put in our city docks or something, so.
It does. That's one of the functions we use it for.
I get it, but. So we've always did all our own barge work or water?
Absolutely.
This is the craft, this is the construction craft that you use when water?
Correct. This is to replace the barge, which is beyond its useful service life.
Okay. Any other questions?
No,
Looking.
Seems like a lot of money, but.
competitively bid, and it's in our budget already, so motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so motion approved by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. Number 7, consideration with possible action on acceptance of 2023 downtown parking study completed by Desmond Parking Consultants, which you alluded to earlier.
Okay, and we have included for you in the packet a series of documents, the first of which is a summary of recommendations, and the second of which is the actual parking study from Desmond. Our intent tonight is not necessarily to have extensive discussion and definitely not to have action on this. We simply wanted to get the study into the committee's hands so that you had an opportunity to review it with sufficient times to, it's a 47-page report, there's a lot
Yeah.
of information in here. So staff's recommendation at this point is to hold until the next meeting. We simply wanted to get you the report so that you have adequate time to review it.
Okay. Sounds good. I know I was looking through, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much to look at.
Just an FYI, the 2-page document that accompanies the report is just like the executive summary. It summarizes all the recommendations that the report gets to.
Okay.
If you want to read the cheat sheet first, and then, but the report gives all the nuts and bolts as to why they got to that point.
So it's the Cliff Notes version?
Cliff Notes,
exactly.
Okay.
Should have made it yellow.
All right, so looking, any questions or anybody to make a motion on that?
Question?
Go
Go
ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. It's a thorough document. It's needed. The recommendations that they have, is that also your recommendations?
Correct.
Okay, so.
And we concurred with
Oh, okay.
what they're,
All right.
what they got to.
Perfect.
And then we work with them daily
Okay.
through the report, getting them information. They came to town, we had meetings, met with downtown stakeholders, lots of different people. So it wasn't just, hey, parking division is telling you this is what we want, so write that report. This third party, you look at our parking system, you tell us from a professional third party point of view what you see, what you recommend.
Yeah, It's a good document, and I'm glad we're holding it a couple weeks so that we'll tell those watching, the council members, read it so that we're not sending it back. We can all chew
your
over it
homework.
over the next couple weeks, and I know we certainly have questions, but
That was something we were insistent on. There was no real way to get it to you outside of putting it on the
yeah,
agenda,
that's-
but we did it with the knowledge that we wanted to hold it to give you adequate time. What I can tell you is the cheat sheet, the recommendations. The last time we did this parking study was 2013. It's been 10 years. And all of the recommendations that we had from the 2013 study were implemented except one. Nope.
No.
Meters on Broadway. And I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert. It's back. But this time, Broadway is supportive of it. So we will be talking about that later.
Okay, all right, so looking for a
We
motion
weren't going to go into detail.
to hold.
Motion to hold, and for
Second.
the other council members to read it.
Yes, do your
Yeah,
homework.
I'm
Read
encouraging.
your constitution. Read
Yeah.
your parking constitution.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so that will be held until our August 16th
More light
meeting.
reading, all right?
Nighttime reading, okay. Number 8, consideration with possible action on request by Department of Public Works to purchase one trailer-mounted air compressor from Roland Machinery in the amount of $25,221.19 using approved 2023 bond funding.
So similar to the three items that we previously talked about, this is part of our 2023 equipment replacement plan. Again, this air compressor was, as a matter of fact, I think this may have been
The one we forgot.
the one
forgot
that we
from last
inadvertently left off of a meeting agenda 2 meetings ago. So we just
Okay.
finally got the paperwork to go along with it, otherwise this would have been passed a long time ago. Again, part of our equipment replacement plan, you've seen it twice before. Now we've actually got the quote, and this came from a Sourcewell quote, so it was competitively bid out.
So, question, just, that was the meeting that we didn't know if we were voting on 2 Bobcats.
That is correct, it's very same, yes.
Okay.
Because the agenda packet was missing information.
Thanks for recalling that back. I was the only one that didn't reply to it.
Aren't you're approved to a certain amount, and this must be just over that, huh?
That is correct. The director level, you are authorized to spend up to $25,000.
That's what I thought, so I'm like, it's over by $221.19.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I remember correctly. Okay, so I'm looking, does anybody have any
That
questions?
was the extra hours it took to represent it, you know, like build up at city time.
Yeah. So any other questions? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. Second.
Okay, motion to approve by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So number 9, consideration with possible action on request by Department of Public Works to approve an amendment to the state municipal agreement, SMA, between the City of Green Bay and Wisconsin Department of Transportation, WisDOT, for project 4987-14-00/71 Manitowoc Road sidewalk. Director.
City and Wisconsin Department of Transportation entered into a state municipal agreement for the installation of a sidewalk along Manitowoc Road, Pecan Street, and Hemlock Drive as part of a Transportation Alternatives Program. The SMA originally provided $558,242 in federal funding to complete both design and construction of the project. Subsequent to the approval of that SMA, we were able to go back and revise the construction estimate which has gone up. Obviously, building materials continue to rise. So DOT gave us the opportunity to revise that estimate. We have done that and provided that information to DOT, and they have agreed to modify the SMA, updating the federal contribution from $558,242 to $808,107. So we simply need to revise, we need to revise the SMA, so the action that we're looking for is approval of the revision and authorize the director to execute this, and like anything else, if we are either spending above $25,000 or receiving money, we do need council's approval to do that.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, move to approve by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That
Aye.
passes. We're going to move on to number 10, consideration with possible action on request by Downtown Green Bay, Inc. to add a public trash can on the west side of Washington Street at the Northland Avenue intersection. Director?
So that was a request that came in from Downtown Green Bay Incorporated. There are some trash cans down on Washington, but with post-COVID, with more people getting back out into public, those trash cans are very popular, especially on the weekends, and they are noticing an accumulation of trash and refuse left on the street near the Northland Avenue intersection. So if memory serves, Chris, they are going to purchase and dedicate the trash can. It will become city property, and then we're responsible for emptying the can and keeping it up.
Yes, and we did have an extra one that we didn't realize. DGBI just paid for refurbishing all the metal cans in the downtown area in the 3 different colors of the DGBI logos. And the last of them just came back yesterday. So there is an extra can able to be put out there, and we're happy to place it. And
So that's the city's can, or?
It will be, yes.
it was, all the downtown cans were purchased years and years ago through some cooperative agreement through the, I'm not even sure how. It wasn't all city funds, it was economic development funds or grants or whatever, but with the understanding that the furniture is really kind of for the downtown business groups.
Well, I think some of that may have come out of TID 5 as well.
Yeah.
So would that be added to the agenda then, the part where you just said about, because it's not, there's no attachment on here really, like to say that we're providing, or that we have to maintain and all that, the stuff you had said.
Yeah, and DPW would add it to its, as part of this approval, if it's approved, of course. DPW would add it to its routine weekly collection.
So we
and
could
make
just
this
put,
list.
if this is approved, approval on the request by DGBI to add a trash can to the west side of Washington Street at the Northland Avenue intersection with Department of Public Works responsible for emptying and maintaining.
Okay, yeah, that would be great, and I mean, there's nothing really even under recommendation. I do look at
Correct.
those blue things, so, and there wasn't anything under
There's
there.
2 colors of blue and then a green hue. Mixed around the downtown now. They used to be the black.
Well, I mean, on the attachment, the agenda report, where then it has recommendation and it's empty, so that's blank, so. Okay, anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion approved by Alder Campbell.
As stated by director.
As, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
what I always like to
Okay,
say.
seconded by Alder Weary, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes. And we're moving to number 11, consideration with possible action to accept a grant agreement of $85,635 from the Fund for Lake Michigan to hire a consultant for the East River flood mitigation study. Director?
Okay, this item and item number 12 are kind of tied together. So staff has submitted a grant application to the Fund for Lake Michigan to hire a consultant for development and implementation of an East River flood mitigation study. This proposes to improve flood hazard conditions along the East River corridor, specifically those areas that flooded in 2019. This would be receipt of a grant of $85,635. There is a $1,250 match, which will be provided by City Services in kind. Melissa Schmitz, the resiliency coordinator, is here. Melissa was the one who wrote the grant application and was successful in receiving the grant. So if you have any specific questions regarding what the grant is going to be used for, Melissa would be available to answer that. The staff definitely recommends getting money from somebody. That's always a good thing.
And I'm assuming that's ditto for the next one?
What's that?
That's ditto for number 12 of what you just said.
It will be, and
I mean,
we'll have to take two separate actions, but if you want me to briefly address number 12, number 12 is also a grant rather than Fund for Lake Michigan. The second grant is from the Wisconsin Coastal Management Association. That grant is for $39,000. There is also a match requirement for that grant. I'm trying to get to the header page here. So with the Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant, again, we're going to be looking for an action to approve receiving that grant.
Oh, 79,000.
Yeah, the grant match of $79,048 is the other grant. So the two grants are actually tied together. We're leveraging one grant against another to help maximize the return on investment and make the grant dollars go farther.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
No,
Did you want to add anything?
The only thing I would add is that, so the total funds for both of them are paying for the contractual services to do the study along the East River so we can identify the flood mitigation areas to develop, for implementation. And the grant funds are also being used to pay a portion of my salary in 2024. So between the two grants, approximately 20% of my salary would be included, and then the rest is all for contractual services to hire an engineering firm.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
that's an amazing job of going to get the grant money and having it include part of your salary too. That's kudos, that's good job. Everybody's competing for those grant money, so glad I've got our top person on.
Okay.
Move to approve.
So taking number 11 first.
Mm-hmm.
Move to approve and by Alder Weary and
Second.
seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so now number 12, we already discussed it. If there's any other questions about that. And I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
So motion to approve by Alder Campbell,
Second.
seconded by Alder Weary. All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and that passes.
Yep.
Thank you for all your work on that. Number 13, consideration with possible action on requests by Department of Public Works to enforce a 10-year manufacturer warranty to all city-issued purchased tipper cards. I read all of this and I thought, wow. I didn't realize there was so much work that we've been doing, because I don't know, we just don't beat up our tipper card apparently. So, Director, those are my 2 cents before you
Well,
go.
this is something that Chris and Dustin and I have been talking about for about the last 2 years. Because we implemented curbside collection, fully automated collection in 2014, we knew this day was coming. We specifically, when we did the RFP for cart selection, one of the primary considerations on selection of cart vendors was making sure they had carts that were durable enough to last 10 years. Well, our oldest carts are 10 years old. So we do get a significant number of calls for service from residents. Primarily, the bulk of them are hinge pin replacements and wheel damage that have occurred. The original carts, I think when we sold the first carts in 14, the 96s, I think were $64.
Yeah, they were about that,
They're up to about
100.
100 right now. Which while still a relatively significant investment, if you think about it, 10-year warranty, you paid $6.40 for that cart a year for 10 years, and it takes a beating. Now, that's not to say at 10 years these carts are not worth anything. The carts themselves, more often than not, still have a lot of life left in them. But if the hinge pin breaks or the wheels break or something like that, rather than replacing that at city cost, we're looking for the ability to pass some of that along to folks, or give them the option to completely replace the cart and get another 10-year warranty.
And hinge pins, just so you know, are almost a dime a dozen. So our proposal is you lose a hinge pin, your lid gets loose. We'd rather go out and pop a new hinge pin in for, even if it's over 10 years old, than to have you lose the whole lid, because then, okay, you're missing a lid, now you have to buy a new cart. So we're still proposing that lid pins would be the only items that will continue to be covered outside of the warranty period. But you break your wheel, you break your lid, you know, whatever. Some people are harder on their carts than others. Similar to you, Alder, I have my original carts, I have not had any problems with them. It just depends on how you take care of them.
Broomstick,
Yeah.
looks for the pin.
Yeah, broomstick, I've seen that, you know, put a stick, a piece of broomstick in it. It's really all, that's just a weird little plastic gap that snaps it. The broomstick would work too.
Just a comment, you know, they just implemented this last year at Buyer Cabin, and I happen to be out there. I don't know why they pick them up on Saturdays. You're not done with the holiday weekend till, but this dude came up and he grabbed this thing and I thought he was gonna squish it in half. I was like, a little easier on that baby, you know? I mean, I couldn't believe how much it contracted. I
They
mean,
can take a lot of flex, yes.
naturally, they don't have the state-of-the-art equipment like we do here,
Well,
but,
the different,
you know.
yeah, the hook we've got.
And it was weird because they had to go one way on one street and then go the other way to catch the other ones, you know, but just, I've seen the abuse it takes, but I don't think we break too many containers, eh? And that could be the difference in the quality, you know, too.
And the only time, and obviously, from time to time, if the arm on the truck is not adjusted correctly and it tips, sometimes, it's not very often, but they will sometimes slide out into the truck. We're not gonna dive in and catch that can. If it's out of warranty, that's on us. We would replace that can if that would happen. And like I said, that's happened few and far between in the last 10 years. But under circumstances where it's DPW's fault, we wouldn't say, oh, too bad you're out of a can. We would replace that, because that would be our fault.
Are these recyclable?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And people don't want them, we'll take them back and give them to a.
However, it has to fit in the recycling cart.
Well, that,
Saws
that's
off.
like, well, what are you gonna do
Saws
there?
Well, I have like 4 of them extra, not from Green Bay, they were from up in Door County somewhere. I asked somebody.
We didn't hear that.
No,
Yeah, they're
they
supposed to
came
stay
from the
there.
garbage guy, and they were, the wheels fall off, and you know what I mean there.
So we have a motion on the floor by Alder
Second.
Weird. Okay, seconded by Alder Campbell, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So number,
I just got one question, I'm sorry.
yeah,
So this was to okay a warranty or continue the warranty
Well,
or offer fixing?
no, what you approved or recommended to council for approval is that up until the 10-year period, and we know the dates on all of our carts, it's actually built right into the stamped code.
Okay.
We will continue to perform routine maintenance and warranty work up until the 10-year warranty period. After the 10-year period, if the lid, body, wheels, or axles become unusable due to personal damage or anything outside of our control, the resident either has the opportunity to fix it themselves, or they're gonna have to buy a new cart. If they buy a new cart, you get a new 10-year warranty. If it's damaged due to us, we'll repair the cart, or we'll replace the cart at no cost to the resident. But we won't do wheel replacements or axle replacements or lid replacements on 10-year-old, anything that's more than 10 years old, because then the rest of the cart is also already on warranty.
Good question.
Our recommendation would be that
Answer.
people buy a new car and get the warranty.
With the exception of hinge pins. Past 10 years, if you have a
Correct.
20-year-old car, you lose a hinge pin, we'll still replace your
We'll
hinge
still
pins.
replace just the hinge pins.
It's all,
We're just having a
just so
common
you know.
sense kind of meeting
It's
today.
it's in the attachment, just so you know.
Sorry.
So you can read it. Okay, number 14, consideration with possible action on request by Department of Public Works to enter into a service authorization agreement with Berners Schober Associates, Inc. in the amount of $50,000 for the design of masonry repairs at the West Side Municipal Garage. Director.
So this would be for design services at the West Side Garage, masonry tech point repairs. Just, again, this is architectural work that's outside of our area of expertise, so we do have BSA on contract to provide these services because the expenditure is more than $25,000, it exceeds my authorization level.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, then I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, motion to approve by Alder Campbell, seconded by Alder Weary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So we move on to 15, consideration with possible action on award of contract parking division security to Star Protection and Patrol for the period August 1st, 2023, well, that's coming up, like right on the day of our meeting, council meeting, through July 31st, 2027, in the amount of $124,800 for the first year, with a 5% escalation rate each year thereafter.
So our parking security contract is coming to an end. So in anticipation of that, staff worked with the purchasing department to put together a request for proposals, submitted that out. We received 2 vendors back, Star Protection and Patrol from Oshkosh and Permar Security Services in Green Bay. There were 3 evaluators that took a look at the proposals. There was a ranking system that was developed and implemented, and Star Protection and Patrol had the highest ranking of the 3 evaluators. So the recommendation is that Star Protection and Patrol be awarded the contract. Contract is for $124,800 in the first year and does include a 5% annual escalator.
So it's actually higher than Permar.
No, Star actually also was the lower dollar
I'm looking at this
amount.
one. What am I?
When you worked it out over the,
it-
Because there's vehicle and personnel.
there?
Right.
I thought you wanted
Permar
to-
charged additional for the use of the vehicle. Star included the
Okay,
vehicle
all right.
usage
Oh,
in
that's
their
right.
quote.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong total there.
What,
Because there was like the one and then you're adding in stuff,
Yep.
so
Mhm.
apologize.
That's
Vehicle cost in there that they had on, that pushes them
Kind of
over.
like the bait and switch. We caught them.
so what do they actually do? What's their job?
They're the mobile security, especially in the ramps.
Patrols all the parking ramps and lots. We've always had it in parking division. Obviously, our employees are also security, if you will, but our employees have other jobs. The security vendor secures, I mean, that's they make the rounds and watch specifically hours
There's
for.
I guess I didn't
Sequel
realize
com-
we had that.
There's a sequel coming out, so Paul Blart,
Paul
parking
Cop.
ramp cop.
Paul Blart, ramp
Yeah.
Ramp cop, yeah.
Honestly, this is needed. I'm glad that we have it. Anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm looking
Move
for
to
a
approve.
motion. Okay, we got a
Make it so.
motion to approve by Alder Weary,
Second.
seconded by Alder Campbell, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So we'll move on to number 16, consideration with possible action to approve the request by Department of Public Works to award the following contracts at a staff level and report the award to the next Improvement and Services Committee meeting for A, Parks 8-23, Joanne's Aquatic Center is that supposed to say re-roofing? I think it is.
Yeah, re-roof, yeah.
That's a new,
And B, Parks 9-23, Bay Beach Pavilion re-roof.
So again, just due to the meeting schedule that we have, the bids are coming in. Part of this is because of the the timing of our bid, or our bond proceeds. So the bid openings are going to be at a point in time where we're going to lose 3 weeks if we don't award the contract immediately.
One of your files said Darth Grenier.
Oh.
Don't tell Brian about that, sorry.
So staff is simply requesting the ability to award the contract to the low responsive responsible bidder and then report that out at a later time.
Okay, and that Bay Beach Pavilion re-roof that's part of the ARPA funds, correct?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't necessarily keep track on where the money's coming from. I'm
think it
more
was-
worried that we have the money.
Okay. All right, so any questions? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approved by Alder Campbell, seconded by Alder Weary, and all those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and that passes.
I'll take it.
Favor of the reroofing.
So, number 17, the re-roofing. Report the award of contract Bridge 3-23 Main Street Bridge B-5-141 expansion joint reconstruction to Pfeiffer Brothers Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $306,291.89.
And I apologize, I'm still working with some new staff on making sure we get the appropriate information in your packet. This was one of the contracts that you had authorized us to award to keep things moving. So what I've done is on the screens, I brought up the actual bid summaries.
Okay.
There were 4 bids received, Pfeiffer Brothers being the low at $306,291.89. The high was Lenda Construction at $465,000.80. This wound up being a very good bid, so we were very happy to award to Pfeiffer at $306,291.89. We're simply reporting that out.
Can you see that? I can't. Okay. Any questions?
Motion
Yeah.
to receive and place on file.
Second.
Okay, so a motion to receive and place on file by Alder Weary and seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So we go on to, just want to see, we have to skip, which one's 21 and 19? So 18, report the award of contract pavement 3-23 School Place Reconstruction to Advanced Construction, Inc. in the amount of $1,123,195.30.
Again, this was another project that council gave us the authority to award to keep moving. 5 bids received, Advanced Construction being the low, with Vinton Construction being high. Low bid was $1,123,195.30, up to a high of $1,748,956.29. Again, we just must have hit a sweet spot in bidding because these numbers came in a lot better than we were expecting. So staff did make this award, and we are reporting that out to you.
Okay,
Good to see the good bids for a while, for a change. Motion to receive and place on file.
Okay. Motion to receive and place on file was made by Elder Weary, seconded by Elder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. So we're going to move on to not 19, but 20. Consideration with possible action to approve and accept a storm sewer easement from Jeffrey L. Schrader for the reconstruction of South Maple Avenue. Director.
Okay, we've included in your packet a storm sewer easement and a graphic of where that easement is located. Again, we've been talking in prior months about that extension or that reconstruction of North Maple up against the railroad tracks there. We have an existing storm sewer that happens to lie in Mr. Schrader's property. It would be very expensive to pick that thing up and try to relocate it someplace else, so we reached out to Mr. Schrader and requested to enter into a permanent easement with him. The documents you have reflect that easement, so staff recommends approval.
So we're paying him $500 for it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I understand all the documents. Anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So Alder Campbell makes a motion to approve, Alder Weary seconds it, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
and that passes. So we're going to go to number 22, report of actions taken by the Department of Public Works, granting of licenses. 1, sidewalk builder, A, Global Concrete LLC, B, Naps Flatwork and Construction. Number 2, underground sprinkler system, A, NEW Irrigation LLC. And Director, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, just reporting out that we had awarded or granted those licenses.
Motion
Alright.
approved.
Motion to approve was made by Alder
Receive and
Campbell.
place on file, I think.
Correct.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that a receipt?
to receive and place on file.
Second.
And seconded by Alder Weary. All those in favor say aye.
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 And that passes. So now we've got informational presentation of proposed 2024 fee schedule for Chapter 16 Environment and Chapter 42 Utilities. Do we do each of these separate? Yeah, I guess we do.
Well, it's all together.
So, okay. And then 2, Director's Report on Recent Activities of the Public Works Department.
Okay, so with the presentation on the chapter, or the proposed fee schedule in Chapter 16 and Chapter 40 for text amendments, the new Utilities Director, Valerie, has been doing quite a lot of work on taking a look at both the ordinance and the fees that we are collecting on that. So the erosion control permit, we are looking at going to $353.40. What you can see here is a workup on how the amount of labor that goes into review and issuance of that permit. So then all other construction erosion control permit types would go to $706.80. A re-inspection fee would be, we're probably going to round that down to $100. The stormwater management plan review comes out to $976.90. And stormwater management inspection fee, I'm trying to remember if we discussed this at a prior meeting. As part of our MS4 permit, our stormwater permit with the state of Wisconsin, for all private stormwater management facilities, we are required one time during the permit issuance, 5-year period, we're required to go out and inspect everybody's private stormwater management device to make sure it's operating the way that it's intended to. We don't currently have a fee established for that, so that would be done at city cost. We're just trying to recover some of that cost. So we've established that inspection fee. Along with those fees, what Valerie has provided you, so what we gave you is, here's the actual cost that we've determined it will take to complete these activities. Then we've got a summary table showing that $353.40 for a residential erosion control, we're proposing a fee of $50. For the other erosion control permit, again, there's $706.80 worth of labor involved in doing that. Our proposed permit fee is $100. Erosion control reinspection, there's actual cost of $100.74, we're proposing $75. Stormwater management plan, actual cost is $976.90, we're proposing $500. And a stormwater management practice inspection fee has a $277.60 actual cost, we're proposing $100. These are higher than what we're currently charging, but we don't want to just drop the full cost on somebody. That would be cost prohibitive and create quite the sticker shock to our residents, so we are trying to be mindful of holding permitting fees in check while still attempting to recover some value on what staff is doing. The next sheet in the attachment shows some comparison between other municipalities. So what Appleton is charging, Howard, De Pere, Ashwaubenon, and Alloy, some of our neighbors, and then one municipality that's comparable to us in Appleton. The next several pages are copies of the ordinances in a red line fashion. So 16-82 talks about the permitting for stormwater management devices, procedures, and fees. So on page 3 of 4, you will see there is some red line text here. That the permittee, landowner, responsible party shall maintain those stormwater management practices specified in the approved plan in a healthy and functioning condition until the practice either becomes the responsibility of the city of Green Bay or it's transferred to another responsible party. As specified in the maintenance agreement, the requirement includes the stormwater management practices, all trees, amended soil areas, and then we have the additional line that the city shall conduct inspections to determine compliance with this requirement and shall assess inspection fees as provided for in the fee schedule. So that's the modifications to 1642, under 1682. 1643, we're looking at adding information relative to the administering authorities granting us the ability to enter onto private property for the purpose of doing the inspection for compliance with the approved stormwater management plan. Under 16-40, permitting requirements, procedures, and fees, we are adding a section K for reinspection, should reinspection be necessary. So then at the end, what you have is a memo to yourselves on the committee and myself from Valerie outlining the changes to the fees and the ordinance language changes. Our recommendation is that we will forward on these fees to, I'm trying to remember if these goes. Okay. We will forward the fee schedule to the law department, and then we'll also forward these proposed ordinance changes to be placed in final ordinance format, and they will appear as ordinances first reading to you in a subsequent council meeting.
Okay.
So more than anything, again, it's a proposed fee schedule. You'll have the ability to look at it when you adopt the fee schedule for the year. We simply wanted to present it to you and answer any questions that you may have before we forwarded it on.
And I see it'll increase the revenue by about 25,000.
Correct.
Anybody have any questions?
Certainly thorough, well documented, well supported.
I gotta tell you, I loved my utility director, okay? Matt was a great asset, he's doing fantastic down in Two Rivers. But bringing a new set of eyes in and looking at old problems with new eyes has been phenomenal, and Valerie's doing a phenomenal job here. We're very, very happy to have her, we'd like to have her.
Awesome. Okay, does anybody have any questions, comments? Otherwise, I guess we'd need to receive and place a
And
vote.
then, yeah, I will tell you, I don't have much of a director's report, things have been extremely busy. The one item that's probably of particular interest to everybody is 1238 Main Street, where the vehicle hit the building. We did receive official word today from the building owner's agent that demolition of that building is currently underway. They expect to have the road back open to traffic tomorrow afternoon.
So the building's coming down.
Oh, yeah.
Is it just that side of the road?
The north side.
Okay, that's closed.
No, the
No, the
entire
whole
road
road
was
is closed.
The whole road was closed because until they decided to demo,
Yeah.
we were worried that any traffic going by, even on the south side of the road, exactly, vibrations caused by traffic going by would have been enough to cause that building to come down on itself. And rather than take it down in a controlled fashion, we didn't want it just falling down.
No, I get that, but the road was closed on the south side.
Completely, yes.
And because
I get it.
we had to close both sides of the road until we could figure out whether the building was salvageable, and if so, what a stabilization plan was gonna be. So we shut the whole road down. Then because it was only gonna be 2 more days, and by keeping the whole road closed, it gave the contractor enough room to work and not have to worry, we just said, leave it closed until you're done. Get in there, get out, and let's be done with it.
Okay.
Okay. Question?
No, just,
Oh, I thought you said, no.
No, not
you
about
said-
that.
just one.
Do you have a question about that? Okay.
No. You have a question on it?
Go ahead, second.
Okay. So, I stopped in the office last week and we talked.
Yep.
So, and I had heard from a certain citizen. So, did we drop any resurfacing projects off for the year? I mean, have anything got canceled? I know we briefly touched on it the other day.
No, any
We're still-
projects that we weren't gonna get, that were dropped before we approved the CIP this year.
Okay. So, okay.
So anything that's in the approved CIP, we're moving forward with.
Okay.
Now, with that, I think I mentioned to you, due to the lateness of approving the bond request, we may wind up with some of the projects leaking over into next year like we did this past year, but we are fighting as hard as we can to keep contractors on schedule and moving forward.
Start west side. It's just the way it's done in the engineering world, right?
It'd
Am I
be
right?
nice to add some of my district on
Yeah,
there,
fair
Start in
but,
the west, and move east.
did you have another comment?
Oh, I was just
question?
saying thanks, I was pester you guys with emails, whether it's Steve or Chris, you guys get back to it right away. Moving brush, especially if some reason it seems like there's been some brush piles that are missed, but been some little rats taking up Harvard and those, but inspection's been on it, so. Thanks.
Okay,
I'll have to
and
include Jim in those emails.
he's probably like, no, thank you for keeping me out. Okay, anything else?
Joe.
All right, so I do have something I wanted to bring up that it was brought to my attention, however, I had noticed it, and I'm not sure, I think it's DPW, but there's a lot of weeds growing in this, like cement areas, like in the middle of roads, like, I'll bring up an example, and I took pictures I was gonna send you. Like when you're coming on Military to Lombardi, there's like cement between the
Don't let Morley.
medians. That's just an example, but I've seen it all over.
In the median.
Medians, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
it's,
we do spray for weeds.
okay,
We may not have gotten there yet this year, but we are not done, of course.
okay. And I'm only using that as an example, there's other areas, but I had somebody from the east side say something to me, I said, yes, I've noticed, so, okay, that is
I'll follow up
DPW.
on that.
Thank
Yeah, that
you,
is DPW.
appreciate it.
As always, if somebody sees something like that, we strongly request that they use request for service. That automatically goes to the correct
Correct
person,
person, yeah.
and then there's a way to track that to make sure that it's being followed up on.
I actually posted the service thing today, actually, and
Every once in
there
a
was a few
while.
comments leading into it. It's like, I saw someone out the other day and they had their shirt off. I don't think city workers are allowed to do that. They were like patching the potholes in the road. Some other guy said, maybe we should just start planting trees in the holes. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Okay, so I get looking for a motion to receive and place on file. 1 and 2, right?
Should we play something?
Made by Alder Weary,
But
and
you're right. Second.
I was looking for a motion. Seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So that has been passed, and the next Improvement and Services Committee meeting is scheduled for August 16th. And for all of those who might be listening, this will all go to full council next week, August 1st. So that's when it will be, all of these things will be finalized. Thank you for coming. How about that? Our one person left in the audience there. And we are
Adjourn.
done. Motion to adjourn by Alder Weary,
Second.
seconded by Alder Campbell. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.